All right. Hi, folks. Welcome to today's SIG Autoscaling regular office hours. SIG Autoscaling is a part of Kubernetes and CNCF. We abide by the CNCF Code of Conduct. So thanks in advance for being respectful and welcoming. Without further ado, done a quick check of the agenda doc, and there's nothing on today's agenda, which isn't too surprising because KubeCon was last week. We didn't meet last week. And folks are probably recovering from code freeze and maybe getting ready for various holidays. But I'm happy to open it up to the floor for any ad hoc agenda items. Is there anything as a group that's worth discussing since we're all together?
Now that I think of it, there actually is something. Sorry, give me a sec. In the autoscaling repo, we have add-on resizer, balancer, builder, cluster autoscaler, multi-dimensional pod autoscaler, and vertical pod autoscaler. Um, Multi-dimensional pod autoscaler, I think, is just a AAP. Um, Builder, what is builder?
That's
Okay,
like
that's
for
tooling.
building all of the projects. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So add-on resizer and balancer, do we have owners and are those things maintained? And I'm wondering, I'm not too sure on their status.
So I can weigh in. Is my mic okay, by the way? Because I'm not getting the yellow border, and I'm
Yeah,
worried.
we
Okay.
hear
We
you.
we can hear you all right. Yeah.
Okay. So the balancer, as far as I know, is just an idea and a prototype, and never used in production. I think there was someone on the SIG Autoscaling Slack channel like a month or two ago, maybe even three, asking if this is used in prod because they wanted to evaluate it. So it might like have some like real first tests happening right now. Other than that, I don't know of any like real production usage. Add-on resizer, on the other hand, is I think pretty widely used. It's just a very stable component, so it doesn't really require any maintenance. Because is this the one that scales the like size of the deployment relative to the amount of nodes in the cluster?
Forget.
I think it is. Like if it's that, it's definitely like widely used.
Yeah, that's the
So
one it
it's
is. If you don't mind, just I'll speak to Atom Resizer. That is exactly what Atom Resizer does. Atom Resizer is managed a little bit differently in terms of how it's set up in the mono repo. It is essentially its mature source is in a release branch called release 1.8. There is some CI, some Dependabot CI, which targets 1.8. I've learned this over the last 6 months, and I've been just doing a cursory review of Dependabot. Dependabot's fairly dependable, as we all know. And so I've been manually shepherding those PRs to 1.8. There is no the automated CI has been stale for I don't know, longer than my tenure. So there is no automated CI running on that. I think Kuba, you and I talked that as far as your best guess is the folks that are using that in production are using the upstream Atom Resizer as a source and are producing their own builds. There haven't been any like upstream builds in a long, long time, but we do still see it in production. So the inference there is that various providers in the ecosystem use that as a reference for forks or otherwise incorporating into their own private build systems. Go ahead.
Let let me get back to you next week. I'll check out how it's done in GK because we definitely use it for many components. And I wasn't okay, yeah, because we have a full mirror of yeah, okay, fair enough. We have a full mirror of the open source repo basically internally. So it's already conveniently forked, and I will probably use that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I would imagine there's CI behind the scenes that we don't have in actual Kubernetes CI for prep. So
I'll verify
we
because I'm honestly not sure. The component is so like stable and hasn't had any changes in a long time that I'm not really sure. I will check though.
yeah, I mean it would have to be updated if like the node API it changed because the behavior is fairly simple as Kuba said. It just monitors for nodes in the cluster and adds more control plane pod. Usually control. I don't want to maybe people are using it for non-control plane pods, but it's typically for like core DNS or something like that. Okay,
I,
with that
I,
interruption, Adrian, why don't kick it back to you to
well,
keep.
yeah. Do we need to do anything to these two pieces of software to somehow maintain them or put them in a slightly better shape? Like, the reason I ask is somebody found some deprecated API that the VPA was using, and they made a pull request to change VPA add-on resize, balancer and cluster autoscaler. And I said, no, please put your PR into one per component. But I don't know if anybody's actually looking at pull requests into add-on resize or balancer. And I just don't know if we need to mark them as deprecated or unmaintained or know who the maintainers are or something.
For Balancer, I'm pretty sure we could move it into some sort of experimental directory or move it out to another repo.
Well, it doesn't have a README, so I think a README saying it's experimental is probably a good
Or
first step.
yeah, I mean it has the AEP proposal, which but yeah, like it doesn't state it clearly, like the expectations on stability and so on. Yeah, fair enough.
Hmm.
Mike?
Yeah, I think like if we're gonna host like experimental projects there, maybe we should make a directory for them because like my concern about us dedicating time to support it, to maintaining the balancer and the add-on resizer is that like I never hear like users or customers coming to ask me about these things. So like I would want to make sure we're putting attention to where users are actually meeting us. And yeah, if we have users showing up in the channel who are asking about the balancer and they're saying, is this ready for production? Then, you know, we can have a conversation then about does it need more attention. But I would hate to see us just like spending cycles to keep these things going if like no one's using them basically. I mean, updating them to make sure they're not falling apart is one thing, but like actually putting time into it, like yeah, I would let, can we make like an experiments directory or, you know, that doesn't have to be the name, you know, where we put stuff or something, you know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. I would vote for that. I do believe the add-on resizer doesn't belong in there though, because it's like clearly not experimental. It is widely used. It's more like do we maintain it still because it's like it's feature complete and stable.
And I think the
Yeah,
problem with add-on resizer is that whole weird branch thing where I don't think the master branch is kept up to date. I think the was it release 1.8 branch is its kind of source of truth, which is a little bit strange.
Let's okay. Let me ask around internally if we have some interest in finding maintainers, maybe on the workload people side, because it's technically a workload autoscaler. And let's get back to it next week, okay?
yeah, I think that's great. I think we can. I think there's an argument to be made that it wouldn't be that much work to get Atom Resizer in good shape. We just need,
Yeah,
I don't
exactly,
know,
exactly.
16
Like this
hours of
shouldn't,
dev hours or something like that.
yeah, like this shouldn't be complicated.
And in terms of balancer, I'm thinking we should just add a README that says this is what it does. This is the support we
Yeah, but
give
like
it.
like distinguishing it from everything else by like also putting it under some sort of experimental, I think would be even better. But both, like either is probably fine.
Yeah, that's true. I'll read the proposal
Also,
and kind of get my head
referencing
around it.
Balancer on the homepage README would be probably helpful. I'm noticing that the landing page for the Autoscaler mono repo excludes the two projects that you referenced, Adrian, that are um, not used, multidimensional and Balancer. So we could
Mm.
probably add a note
Right.
just to clarify, like, why is this here? And if
Yeah, like the multi-dimensional is, I think, sort of in the same boat as Balancer, right? That it's
Well,
experimental.
it's just an AEP
yeah,
at
it's
the
just a
moment.
proposal. Yeah.
A
Oh,
few months
it doesn't even
ago,
have any. Okay, okay, I
yeah.
see.
So a few months ago, somebody actually made a pull request to try and get it into get something going, but they've kind of just disappeared.
I see.
But that's another one. It's like if we have some sort of experiments directory, maybe people will feel better about just, you know, check some code in. Like it may not be working, but these are clearly marked as experiments. So like, you know.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah,
that my
that's very
reluctance
fair.
for the multi-dimensional part autoscaler was if we merge it, who's going to maintain it? Because I don't know if we have capacity. So I'd be okay if we throw it in experimental and say good
Yeah,
luck,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
as opposed to
That makes sense.
landing it somewhere cool. Um, who's going to take this action item? I feel like I got the vision, I got the job, right?
Yeah, totally.
I'll follow up on add-on resizer.
Okay, I'll wait for you there, and then I'll make a pull request to do something just to mark these. I don't know about the move to experimental. I may make a few pull requests just to keep the changes isolated, and then like one move at the end, maybe.
Yeah, and just like if we update the main README that says the experimental folder, it's like this is the Wild West. They may be maintained, they may not be maintained, but this is where
Yeah,
we're experimenting. Like that's
yeah.
probably clear enough for people.
And then I guess the owners file can be pretty broad. We can have like the combination of all owners or all approvers and reviewers for cluster autoscaler VPA on that experimental directory. Cool.
Well, in which case you wouldn't need to add an owner's file. It would just be inherited by the root owner's
Oh,
file.
it doesn't. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Cool. That's me. Thank you.
I might have another point then. Jack, when are we planning the 135 release? And like what is the list of things we need to wait on, right? Because there's definitely the CSI cap. There's like two things around DRA admin access and like one other one that I think went to beta in 135.
Yeah, so partitional devices. Did you mention partition? That
Oh,
is in flight. Let's see. There is Hamad's. If I'm sorry if I'm saying his name wrong. CSI
yeah.
PR
So
against
that
DRA.
we are on reviewing that.
That's right. That's right. Let's see. So we have partitional. Yeah. So partitional devices and DRA admin are in flight. I think
Yeah,
that's all
and
of
the
the DRA
CSI
that are
cap.
in flight.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
both Matt and myself have been dealing with the device class resolver interface edition.
Yeah,
So I've
that
got a
plus
PR open for
the
one third
breaking
for
changes. Yeah,
to
yeah.
scoop in 135. So I think that should
Hmm.
go in the 135 PR, and then the CSI can be built on top of that.
Okay, so
I
seems like
think
CSI will
that's
be
it
the
for a dot zero as far as I'm concerned.
so it seems like
There's a whole
CSI
list
will
in the
will be the
DRA
long
issue.
pole.
What's that? Sorry.
It seems the CSI will be the longest pole there, one way or the other, right? Because it's like a pretty substantial chain of
I
PRs,
think
I
that's
think.
right. It seems to be.
Okay.
I chatted with him last week, and he's confident it's basically ready. So if we spend some
I would
cycles
imagine
leaning
so
in,
because like it should copy the DRA flow one to one or
yeah,
reuse ideally. Just make sure it does. So like I was on call rotations the past 2 weeks, but I should have some time next week to review the DRA changes for sure. And one teammate is already reviewing the CSI chain. I'll do another review after he's done.
yeah. Okay, cool. But I think that's largely it. I feel like I've made a significant amount of progress getting the N-3 release branches in good shape. So
Yeah, I
we're doing
noticed
lots more
all
cherry
of the
picks.
cherry pick activity. Thanks a lot for all of that. It's a lot of things to keep track of.
Yeah, hopefully, I know that in my environment, I know that benefits the Azure AKS stuff. I'm not sure if it benefits the GKE stuff, but
We
Mike, I'm
actually
not sure if same thing for your eyes on Red Hat production consumption of all these bits. We definitely want to make sure it has use. So I'm just doing it in a vanilla way because I know that benefits what I can see.
Yeah, I think the cherry picks have been neglected precisely because in GKE we have our own release branches and we only use master from the open source repo essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, same for us. Like we only fork from master, and so we only take the updates from there. We don't actually update our old branches. Like if we need to cherry
Yeah,
pick things back, we do it on our branches.
yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Well, the advantage there's still an incentive, I think, as project maintainers to have some public facing uh, CI that represents the state of particular Kubernetes adherence. So we
Oh
have
yeah,
that
for
at
sure.
least. So
I'm
I think there's
definitely not
value.
trying to say it's a good pattern.
Yeah.
Well, I
So
think
yeah,
in some cases, like if the backporting bug fixes, is great, obviously, in C
yeah.
cases a must. But like I think in some cases where we've, especially with some of the PRs that I was working on recently, Jack, like you saw how difficult those would have been to take back, to
Oh
back.
yeah, for sure.
It's like I think in some cases we just have to declare best effort. Like if we can't easily take it back to a version, then we should probably not spend a lot of time doing it. It's like it would be great to do it, but this is a project that's rolling forward.
Right. But the only thing I'll add to make this slightly more interesting is that the better job we do backporting things sanely, the less likely we are to encounter those situations where something that should be backported can't be backported.
Yeah, yeah,
Usually I mean, that's not always possible. Sometimes significant, at least significant enough to break Git automation changes go in for good reasons that touch the entire code base. And then a fix happens that land after that, which has to be on top of those changes. And then there's justification not to land those significant changes into the backport branches. And then you're faced with, okay, do we manually put those changes into the, so it does, it's never, super easy, but I do think that we're able to produce more backports recently because we're paying attention to backports, if that makes sense.
Oh
So
yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm really glad this work is being done because otherwise we would just be noticing the issues where somebody would open an issue mentioning that some old custom scalar version has a bug and like it's fixed in the next three versions we never backported it. So
yeah,
this is terrible, and we are like much less likely to run into these issues now. So thanks a lot.
cool. Mike or Adam, do you want to volunteer any information from last week? Anything you learned?
Well, let's see. I had a lot, I gave a talk on multi-cloud, multi-cluster topologies where we talked about like Karmata and Cluster API and Carpenter and building like these kind of things. And I had a lot of good discussions that come out of that. People are like definitely very curious about what's happening with Carpenter and how they can use it and everything. I'm trying to remember, and I have to look at my notes because someone had come up and asked me about a cluster autoscaler feature, and it was one of those things where it was like I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, yeah, this would be cool to have, but I'm not remembering off the top of my head what it was now. Um, yeah, like I didn't get into too many crazy cluster autoscaler discussions. It seemed like that people were kind of asking me about other things, or the discussions I was having were other things. The one thing I did have a question about is that like I gave away a ton of Cluster API Carpenter stickers. I had printed some for this conference. I gave away probably about 50 of them. Um, but at the end of the conference, Justin Santa Barbara and Cyprian Hackman had did a talk where they were talking about bringing Carpenter into COPS, and they showed an alternate Carpenter logo that like I think I need to have this logo for the Carpenter Cluster API.
Is it like a, you know,
Yeah, I'll put a
RoboCop badge or something?
no, it's not a RoboCop badge. It's not a RoboCop badge, but it's like a cartoon beaver that I just thought was amazing. So like I don't know
Hmm.
how to engage the Kubernetes like art team or whatever, but yeah. Anyways, no, it was a great like there were a lot fewer people at this KubeCon in my opinion, like but there were still some good discussions and everything, and it's nice to see people too.
Yeah, for me, I think the highlight relevant to this group is I went to the presentation on in-place pod resize, and they talked about the rollout of that and going to GA in 135, and there was a couple of questions at the end about what that um, means for the essentially the heterogeneous BPA proposal that I have. Like they wanted to be able to adjust pods to be different sizes within the same data set. Um, so yeah, that was encouraging and a little bit of motivation for me to get back to work on that proposal.
Well, I see Jason Deal is here, so I'll talk about our. I thought he definitely saved the SIG talk. It's. I found myself on stage being like, this is really challenging to cover all of the material for the SIG, and so I was really grateful that Jason basically went into a deep dive on Carpenter, which I think provided a lot of value. But it's something to learn for the EU talk. Whoever gives that talk, we have a lot of things in the SIG and trying to sort of explain the state of things and also just explain. Um, how do you explain how cluster autoscaler actually is implemented in the real world, where every provider kind of has their own slightly mutant version of what you might see in the open source. So it's challenging to distill that in an entertaining way. So anyway, thanks, Jason, for going deep on Carpenter and DRA. That was really great.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the opportunity to get to talk about it. But yeah, we definitely have that same issue of every Carpenter cloud provider has these little permutations of how it's slightly different. So it's interesting to try and talk about that effectively.
When is the due date or whatever it is, the process to get the SIG talk in for EU? Where or when does that happen?
The due date is something like December 10th or 12th or something like that. Does anybody know more accurately than me?
That's soon? Okay.
Not for
Oh
maintainers.
yeah, it's very soon. The normal CFP process was over like a month ago. Yeah, the deadlines are just fast and furious
no.
with.
Well, I thought it closed it. I thought the normal one closed at Thanksgiving.
I'm thinking of you think the maintainer one closed or the normal CFP?
I thought the normal CFP had opened already, but I thought it didn't close until like I'm looking it up.
But is the
Okay, yeah.
SIG
Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
is the SIG one fall under the normal CFP as well?
No,
Well, no, the CFP is
that's
not. Yeah,
it's
Well,
under it used to be called maintainer track. I'm not sure what it's called now.
yeah. According to this, the regular CFP closed on the 12th of October.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah, I'm looking to see now if there's
That's like one KubeCon in advance you have to submit.
I know.
That's exactly right. Yeah, but yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
you're due by
definitely.
12. That's crazy.
I would definitely like to talk about CA and like the refactors we have planned, and that might be a good opportunity to like explain again how it's working, how it's supposed to work in the new model.
Kuba, I would really encourage you to do a separate session on that. I think that would be hugely valuable.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But isn't that close now?
No, that's not. I think that's through early December, but I'll get back to you on that. So I'll share a little bit. So I went to Maintainer Summit on Sunday. Did anybody else go to Maintainer Summit? Mike, were you there?
Yeah, I was there.
Great. So you were probably at a couple of these talks. So there were a lot of really great talks around workload-aware scheduling, topology. So Adam, you mentioned heterogeneous VPA and heterogeneous in pod autoscaling. That was also mentioned. So if you were to classify everything under a single umbrella, it would be, how do we as a Kubernetes community provide sufficient advanced topological interfaces to, meet the current moment where the dominant workload at scale is AI ML, multi-tenant AI ML at scale. And so you have folks. So from our perspective as autoscalers, you have these are like, this is vaporware at this point, but like, for example, and maybe it's not vaporware for certain providers because maybe folks are doing it in their managed solutions. But in terms of the upstream solution, like a standard part of the Kubernetes API, how do you say, like, I have a workload which is going to span n number of GB300s, where n is not and like an int of full rack. I'm not going to fill all racks with GB300s, but I need to like declare something where my training graph or my inference graph spans multiple GB300s connected on the highest speed, network interface, which could be InfiniBand or NVLink or whatever, depending on what your topology looks like. So we don't have standard Kubernetes semantics to accommodate that kind of things. Certainly for an auto-scaling perspective, if a workload arrives which were to express those semantics which don't exist yet, how do we auto-scale and create whole topologies to meet that demand? So there were a bunch of talks on that. Hopefully I'm not talking too abstractly so folks understand what I'm saying. So I think, Kuba, that your suggestion to maybe go into a deeper dive of, it could almost be like three-part, like this is just how what you're able to share about how GKE does it. Maybe you can talk about how, to a certain extent, there's tech debt from that. And then three, like, what are we going to do going forward? Is there going to be something like a V2 effort of the upstream autoscaler? Like, how are we going to, um, you know,
Yeah, and like how that ties into the extensions that are desired, like the topology autoscaling or the vertically attaching a device to an existing node. Yeah, that would. Yeah. So am I getting this right? That what's still open is what the SIG talks and
and the
the
maintainer
talk
summit
the
talks?
maintainer summit?
That's yeah. Am I right that was there a maintainer summit at EU last year?
Yeah.
There
Did
was.
I hear that it was somewhat different at EU? Okay, there was. Adrian, you were there. Cool. So yeah,
Yeah.
what's left, Kuba, is there's still a call for content to fill up that maintainer summit day. So these are the talks I'm referring to where like Eric from Google was on stage, Wojtek was on stage, Dominic was on stage, talking about maybe primarily SIG scheduling concerns, but just
Yeah.
it's
This
it
is what I
involves it
mentioned.
involves all of us. So
Yeah,
trying
this
to
is what I
just
mentioned when we talked before KubeCon, like the plans on extending schedule.
that's right, that's right. So yeah, I think
Okay,
that
I will look
what
into
you're
that.
talking about would be great content, a 30-minute presentation to more of an audience like this and less of a user audience.
Yeah, that is very fair.
So that would
Yeah,
be Maintainer Summit, is what you're suggesting.
Yeah, yeah, and
Gotcha. Yeah.
I'm happy to help with that or loop other folks into.
I will
Yeah.
jump on that next week and loop you in
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah,
Cool.
Maintainer Summit is definitely a great place to talk about any of these like scheduling or constraints where we want to get all the projects in there. Like, yeah, I think I agree with Jack. It's like a perfect opportunity for him.
And it was really great. Like part of it was just a call to all SIG, not just TLs, but like folks who are in, like if you're in this SIG or this SIG and this SIG, let's all talk together. Like because the problems that we need to solve, we all need to participate, and every SIG needs to be on board. So
Well, and
it's a great
probably we probably need to reach out. Like what I learned at the last Maintainer Summit is we probably need to get the involvement of one of the technical advisory groups if we want to like really push into the realm of organizing this into an initiative where we like organize everyone. Those technical advisory groups can help us to kind of whip the other SIGs and get all of us like together so that if we get to a point where we feel like we're not able to get consensus among the groups that we're like collaborating with, the technical advisory groups can help us to kind of solve those problems and whatnot. So that's another avenue for us as well.
cool. I think we're at time.
Yeah.
Good chat.
Great to see
Nice
everybody.
catching up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
See folks
Thanks,
online and
Joe.
next week.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you.